take your CIP, page 39. That's what I'm going to be looking off of.
Okay.
Yeah. One of the goals of the CIP process is trying to bring together projects, to talk about combining projects or where it makes sense to take two projects, spend it out because it'll save you a little money. A good example of that is you don't want to go ahead and pave a road and then replace a water line the next year. It doesn't make sense. So what we try to do is coordinate our projects. The public safety facility is an example of that. Last year, I believe it was, Ron Morgan came to me with a project of $200,000 roughly to repair and to upgrade the existing fire department. Well, that's a lot of money. And the USDA money that's out now is almost free money. And in fact, they came to us last year and said, listen, if y'all got any project, we need projects, bring them to us. Of course, we weren't ready for that. So we didn't have anything. But the USDA community loan pays for public safety buildings. So it's cheap money, it's almost free money. And the idea that a combined fire department and police department into a public safety building meets some of the goals that former boards, I will say, not necessarily this board, have had over the years. The example that I like to give is our town center plan. The town center plan calls for relocating the public works facility. Well, we would have to build a brand new facility for the public works building. You could be talking $2 to $3 million for that same facility. In order to help with that project, the idea was perhaps build a new public safety facility because there is good money available for that, not for a public works facility, but for a police and fire facility. Combine those two uses, frees up space here at Town Hall for, and at that time it was planning and zoning, community development, lake management. Now we could even say parks and recreation, which wasn't on this when we originally filled out the forms. But that would free up office space over here for work that needed to be done here. By moving to a new facility for police and fire, we then open up the old facility for the public works to move into. That's a perfect spot for public works with the bay, the storage areas that they need now. They don't need this. They don't have to meet the same requirements of what is it, residential or beds or whatever that. I'm trying to think now what you told me, but the housing requirements of the state law, because fire departments have to, public works does not. So that's why that building now works better as a public works garage.
So the police and fire would be in the new public safety facility. Mm-hmm. The public works would go to the current fire department facility. That would free up the dam house. No. Why?
It frees up the dam house and it frees up the the left
frees
side
up the dam house and the police department.
Yeah. So that was the idea, was try to coordinate 3 or 4 different community goals into one project with cheap money. And again, the USDA is the cheapest money we can find right now.
But when you say cheapest money, that's from a loan standpoint.
Loan standpoint.
Right. Not from a grant.
It's not a grant.
No, it's not free. It's not free money.
There's
almost
no grant here. It's just 3 3/4 or 3 1/3%. It looks like
right.
A little over 3 1/3.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's probably a little bit cheaper right now. Rates are starting to creep back.
And that's over 40 years.
Yeah, they
That's
offer
a 40-year loan
program, which makes it easier for communities to pay
Yeah.
for. So that was the idea behind this plan. Again, it's not critical, no. You know, we've got several projects on the list that aren't critical that can be moved toward the end of the line, and when money becomes available, we can certainly pay for it. But at some point, you know, the ABC store will be open, it will fill, and people will be starting looking at the town center plan over the next couple of years, especially with the tourism aspect of it coming up to y'all here. That would, you know, certainly put more pressure on you to move the public works building. Again, it's not a critical move right now, but it may be at some point if we have a larger developer come into the town center.
Not being here when all the town center and all that stuff, is that property eliminated in the new town center plan with the,
Our property?
where the public works is now?
It's not eliminated, no, it's actually, on the new plan, it's housing and parking area.
But it's not still town property to have a public works or something?
Oh, no, it's shows.
It's repurposed.
It's repurposed. That's
One of the
right.
biggest
Yeah.
reasons, Sean, we did that, town center plan was to get ahead of the state on their plans to do a new entrance to Chimney Rock Park. If we had our plan in place, then when they come in, they'll just pretty much go with our
Piggyback.
plan. If not, they come in and they send some engineers in and boom, 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 and all of a sudden we've got something, we've gotta live with what they come up with. So that was the idea, was to get that in place, so when that day came, we were set, we had, and it was, you know, it was a smart thing to do, I'm glad we got it there, but it doesn't, I haven't seen any indications of any, you know, great development going on, or anything that would, that would wanna make us push forward with that plan,
With the town center?
with the town center, with putting public money into it, you know, certainly we're always, you know, looking for private money to come in.
I think the important part is the phasing, because I think you will get excitement. It's not gonna be right away, but I think you will in the town center plan when the building time is right. And it means that we have to be ready to move on other projects if we're gonna give up the public works space. So all it is to set in motion certain things that need to happen prior to, say, negotiating with the developer to repurpose the.
There was one other thing that was mentioned in a plan, I think it was even prior, probably to the, town center plan, was putting the, public works, since public works typically isn't something that you want to drive by and look at.
That's true.
Out on, Island Creek Road, and just putting a, you know, steel building out there, really all they need is something to park their equipment in, and a place to get, you know, out of the weather and work on some things. It doesn't have to be, you know, it doesn't have to be a beautiful building.
That's right.
And you have places out there you can kind of, you know, snug it back behind some other things that it's not so intrusive like it is here.
Well, my thing is what I would like to see council look at is we need to get some of this engineering done for these projects. It's like the boardwalk out here. We need to get that engineering done.
It doesn't go bad.
It doesn't
Once
go
we've got
bad.
it, we've got it.
Exactly, same with this town building, you know, at some point, you've got to get the drawings done, the engineering.
Right.
And that's where, if something comes up as a grant or some special deal, saying shovel ready, we can qualify for those. We can just walk up and say, here's our drawings, how much can we get help on, or lower cost of financing? I think we're missing the boat a little bit by not going ahead and getting our priorities on this list. Anything that requires engineering, let's go ahead and get this work, set aside some money every year, and let's get the engineering done on this, so we're ready when it comes time for a loan or a special.
Well, we might want to, you know, decide first if this is, you know, if that's exactly what we want and where we
Well, that's
want
what I'm
it.
saying, what
Because
projects?
some folks might object to having, you know, dump trucks and piles of sand and gravel and everything out there, right there next to the golf
Right, I
course on
agree.
one of the most, you know, one of our,
Sure.
entrance view corridors. So,
That would come along with the engineering, you go out there and identify.
Yeah,
the
where
spot
would this
there.
go in the concept there?
We have not, but it was over towards the golf course, because they have to pretty much stay in a certain,
Right.
Yeah.
for our ISO rating, so.
And what John was talking about, where the Public Works was out on Island Creek at the same time as where they were talking moving the police department.
Yeah.
Either out on 9 or
I think it was
or
just-
over
it was
towards
just
the
on-
ABC store at one
Yeah.
point in time too. So,
yeah, the idea with that was it was a more central location for, you know, both sides.
Right.
of
Sides of the
town.
lake,
Yeah,
And that's the same idea here with this.
Right.
Yeah.
yeah.
it would put them more central, unless the West Side Connector is ever opened up.
Right, that's the big.
So,
But here again, we need to go ahead and say, okay, we want a group of people to identify where it goes, or we need to get these steps rolling. We talk about, but we're not going ahead and taking the next step.
Proactive.
Right.
My personal opinion at this point, with it, which subjects change with more information coming, but from where I'm sitting right now, I would look more toward putting the public works out on Island Creek and leaving the, you know, police and fire kind of where they are.
Right.
But, you know, so there may be some information out there I haven't seen that would change my mind,
We've
but.
got an asset management group, we like to ask them and say, look at this, and maybe that'd be
Yeah.
part of that, and then hold a public comment meeting on that, but it's like that boardwalk, we know where it's going, what we want, now that we've got the vote slips that we wanna put there, we should go ahead and get that engineering done, and that way, if federal government says, okay, we're gonna do infrastructure and roads, we might get a.
Do we
5%,
wanna get the
10%.
asset management into layout of the town and best management from that perspective?
Well, but
As opposed to what they're already doing?
But they know what pieces of property we have, if nothing else, we'll narrow it down to two recommendations.
I would just,
Well, if you do that, you got them looking at it, then you got the zoning and planning looking at it, then us, it really gets kind of, I think we need to have, maybe the decision makers need to have a meeting on it and iron it out, or at least iron out a general direction. Let's decide on, well, do we wanna move toward relocating the utilities, the public works part of it, and leave the police and fire where they are, or do we want new police and fire and put the public works somewhere? But I don't think that decision.
We just need y'all's dead
Yeah,
center.
maybe if a good start would be the boardwalk down here you're talking about, maybe get some engineering done.
Well,
on that.
even if we went with the plan that we've got already, now that's likely to change with this new RC, or the TDA proposal that we just sat through last week. And so the concept that we have right now is not the new concept that's being proposed exactly. There are some changes.
Right.
And the marina moving now affects that boardwalk concept.
That's right.
So we actually need to get detailed concept, well, and where did TDA leave that?
yeah, in June, you can expect it to be adopted, hopefully, countywide. Every city will have their component. And then we'll have to do some adoptions on our side to revise our town center master plan and maybe some transportation planning. But one of the projects I'll offer up as an example of how this could be done is real similar to what we did with the boardwalk and the marina. We had staff take a look at it, put together proposals, consider options, and then they presented it back to these boards. And to me, we are allowed then to go through some of the finer details and not have boards spend 6 meetings on discussing whether or not we need 6 parking spaces or 8.
Yeah, I don't disagree, I wanna get off dead center. It's
Oh, I understand.
it's nice to talk about it, but
But
it
I
just
do-
seems we talk about it forever and just,
I do agree with Commissioner Moore. What we need is direction. And as y'all, set that policy or set that direction, we can bring you what you need to make those decisions. But what we would need to hear is that, yes, we're generally okay with the concept of doing X, Y, and then we can bring you a plan back on how we would do it.
Well, I'm okay with it, but apparently Commissioner Moore disagrees and thinks that public works ought to be out on Island Creek and leave fire and police where they're at from what you said.
I'm not
So-
convinced
so,
yet
uh,
that we should.
So should we leave it on the CIP at number 714 or move it back to the bottom again this year? I don't even care. I mean, looking at, we're not gonna be able to fund
We're not gonna
more
get,
than 2 or 3, just like we did last year. All we were able to really fund was 1, which is the restroom.
Well, we funded 18 projects last year. So, what I do is I will take the amount of money that we have left over roughly after we do operational plus or minus, and then that's where I go with my capital when I'll start knocking.
Well, considering that, then I would say move it to the bottom again, and I'll tell you why. If the potential is that we're going to have to increase taxes this year, like Commissioner Cameron said earlier, if that potential is there, I would not want to see the public safety facility as one of the higher priority CIP projects at this point in time.
well, I don't think it ought to be in fact, I'm not even sure it ought to be on here at all at this point, because we just haven't given it, as a board, we haven't discussed it, other than today.
just understand, you're going to have a request from fire chief to say, we need $200,000 worth of work to our building. That needs to take place outside of the discussion of the public safety facility.
Okay.
Whether y'all want to spend that, good money after bad, that kind of thing, that's completely up to y'all. I will say, and I needed to say this earlier and I forgot, Fairfield Mountain Volunteer Fire Department has just submitted to me a request for repair their buildings in the amount of $400,000 and at least 3 trucks, maybe 4, over a period of years. All of those total close to $1 million, maybe a little more. And so what I would caution y'all also is now we're getting pressure from another volunteer fire department for increased funding, which is now directly going to compete with not only his projects, but other projects that are in your general fund. Right. So you need to.
I think it's the case, if you reach for a star, at least you don't come up with a handful of mud.
That's very true. Yeah. But their needs are just as real as ours, because right. Their housing needs are the same ones that we're having to face. I don't know why they would need the housing, but anyway. Yeah, but again, something that needs to be considered as we go through here.
Well, then, maybe we don't have to rearrange anything today. We still got the public hearing and then another month to decide, so, and more time to talk about it. Yeah. So.
How many bids do you have an ad?
There are things under it that I think would be addressed certainly before we would take on a project of that size.
I was asking Ron how many bids we need.
I don't even know if this is on, but what we have right now is we have 2 guys on duty 24 hours a day on normal, then when we have storms and stuff. So we were looking at like 4 rooms, okay? So right now we really need 2, but that would be for however many years down the road. If we built this new building, the architect we talked about, he said we built a 75-year building. So, we don't know. We need 2 rooms right now.
Looking for 2 bedrooms is what you're looking at?
Is what we need.
What size, 12 by 12?
They vary a little bit based on, like, we put together a plan just to do an addition to the current station. Mm-hmm. And so we had, I met with the architect, and I said, this is the space we've got. Mm-hmm. And then he designed, it was kind of a weird shape, but it was like 2 rooms and around a couple of new bathrooms kind of deal. And that little addition was estimated like $200,000, which, construction is high, it's a long way, but, so then that's when, so what can we accomplish a greater goal here, kind of how we come up with this plan.
Well, the total cost of the project on here is $5.7 million over the period of years. Now, would that include all the technology that has to go into it, everything, or is this just the building itself?
That should be, for that price, I think it's gonna be, obviously probably wouldn't include furnishings, we take a lot of furnishings with us.
You're not sure?
But, the architect gave me a square foot price for basically a turnkey building, but it probably don't include furnishings.
So it's for the building?
Yeah.
Probably doesn't include everything else.
The $5 million though is, remember, your financing cost, it's not just the.
I understand, but and the financing involved in it too.
That's for
so we're not talking
station.
the technology that have to go in and all that kind of stuff.
That's fire station.
So really make it a state-of-the-art and up-to-date facility by the time it's completed.
And this architect builds fire stations, so that would include all the wiring and everything, the infrastructure that needed in the building to make it work for a future fire station.
But
for
not
fire
the furniture, fixtures,
functional.
and equipment, that kind of, all that's extra.
Do what now,
The
sir?
furniture, fixtures, and equipment is all that's not included.
Most yes, I mean, your
wish we
TV
knew.
screens, your computers, all that stuff wouldn't be included in that price. A lot of that stuff would come with us, but it probably wouldn't include all the furnishings.
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand the actual computers wouldn't be, but everything to get it ready for state-of-the-art occupation and functionality.
Is that a submitted estimate?
No, I called a couple architects that I knew from conferences that specialize in fire stations.
Just getting the ballpark.
I said, give me a per square foot cost, because they're building fire stations constantly. That's what they specialize in. and they give me a square foot price, and so we use that same number for the police department, not knowing, so it might be a little bit high on the police side. But that's where we come up with that number from.
And this is through a USDA loan?
Yes, that's the
What's
most
shown here?
economical way to finance it that we're aware of, short of somebody donating the money.
Thank you, sir.
All right, very good. Okay, any other discussion on this, or anything else, Ron, that we can provide to you today?
If we don't do anything today, it stays where it is, it stays on the bottom, so we just, we just look at it later.
What I will say though,
It's not on the bottom.
what I present to the public is this sheet, unless you change it. That's why it's important to say, Ron, I really hate that project, whatever.
Yeah, okay, so
Leave it
you
all
want
away.
to, all right. all right.
Otherwise, it
If
will
that's
go
the,
in.
if that's the case, I'd rather see it on the bottom.
Got a motion?
Right.
So if we move it to the bottom, then
maybe
we're gonna
something else
have
you
a
wanna move to.
200,000 request for, upgrade of the current building. Do we want to spend 200,000 on the building?
Do we have
I'm
a,
not sure, I'm not convinced we have to do,
Or allocate
that?
165 for the engineering for a public works facility?
do we have a plan, the drawings and everything of what $200,000 is gonna get us?
Yes, I've got basically a floor plan, yes.
and it makes.
In the existing
two bedrooms.
building?
In addition to the existing building, yes.
Is it an addition added to
It would
the,
be an addition added to the existing.
for the 200,000?
Yes. I had Jonathan Hinkle give me some estimates as far as construction based on the floor plan that I got from, I got Rick Thurwood to do kind of a design a few years ago.
How many square feet is that addition?
It's only like 1,000 square feet.
For 2 bedrooms? Or-
It's basically two, I won't remember, it's basically 2 larger bedrooms that would have multiple beds in them, and then 2 like full bathrooms with showers and all.
One thing, John, if I may, one thing you showed me before, this was all internal to the current structure. What you had showed me at one point in time
I
was,
don't recall that. The plan that we have is an external addition, and the reason being
okay,
is the state fire code changed a few years ago. And this is kind of what's got us in the dilemma, is any new residential construction, such as bedrooms, has to be sprinklered, okay? So if we put one bedroom inside the current building, our entire current building has to be sprinklered. What we're proposing, because of just money, is to build an addition that has a significant fire separation, like a 3-air wall separation.
maybe what you showed me was a room you're currently using with bunks or something.
That's probably so,
And
yeah.
back beyond the
Maybe so.
kitchen there.
Yeah, maybe so.
Okay, okay.
But the new addition would be an outside the current floor plan and have a huge fire separation so that we could maybe get away from sprinkling the whole building and save money.
And just so you, Commissioner Cameron, the 165 that was here, I think it was 165, was,
That was just the first year cost.
yeah, the first year cost for 165 was your engineering.
Oh, okay, for the
Or
whole
what?
new building.
Engineering and designing for the building,
Okay.
yeah.
Like I said, I just firmly believe we've got to get on some of these designs and some of this engineering for these projects.
Wow. And we're looking at 300 for the marina and boardwalk, and that's planning, design, and engineering?
Yeah, that's a $3.7 million project. It's usually roughly about 10% of your cost.
And that's the new marina building that the TDA proposed, and the new boardwalk with the relocation of the marina and all?
That's correct.
And the 300 is our part of it, or?
Now, again,
How much of
The TDA was gonna
the
pay
TDA
part of that.
TDA, yeah, and again, the back of your that is a little misleading. You have $80,000 roughly, a little more, a little less, from TDA money that's gonna come towards that project. You're going to have 50,000 is what we put aside, is probably gonna be more of private money. And then, the rest was loan. So really what you're doing is you're taking, you know, what is that, $130,000 and borrowing as much money as you can off of that. Oh, and the other part of the revenue source was if you build your slips, that it'll create additional revenue to be applied towards that project as well.
Lake Ops, you know what page that is?
Yeah.
Could you put tabs on these next time for my department? Or have an index of page numbers?
There it is in the front, page 133.
Thank you. Okay, Marina Boardwalk. Okay,
Yep.
So what we showed is private funding of about $500,000, give or take. So,
Private funding of $500,000.
private funding, that would be eligible per year for the project, so yes. No, these are total, that's why I said it's a little misleading. That's a total. So, what it means is that you would have close to 200,000 for your boat slips, 80 plus for your TDA money, and then the remainder was the private funding that would be for the restaurant.
Okay.
Where's
So
that, what designates that on here?
Down in your revenue sources,
Uh-huh.
Oh, yeah.
yeah. So really
Revenue
what you're,
classifications?
yeah, what you're saying to somebody is that you're going to borrow the $2.4 million. You're roughly expecting $1 million of the project privately funded.
500
500
year, not,
So, so the way it would work is you get the people who want to do the restaurant, they would buy in on the very beginning, and they would be on the hook for that, for repayment of that debt, the town would.
That's correct. And
Okay,
it
well,
could
how
be-
did, they're gonna have to do that, they can't encumber the town's property, they're gonna have to do that with, some other asset somewhere else.
That's correct. That's correct.
well, and that's phase 1A of the TDA plan that was presented to us in conjunction with that new town center master plan. That one is the one that is the revenue producing phase of that overall plan, the marina and the boardwalk. If we add the slips, we go from what currently 88 to 170 something or 180 something slips,
That's right.
around that, or something like that, revenue producing, and the actual marina building, would have the second floor restaurant, which would be revenue producing too.
Right, but you gotta have.
Because that could be
somebody's gonna have
concession agreement,
Right,
so.
well, concession, if somebody puts a restaurant in there, they're gonna want more than just a concession agreement, if they're obligating $500,000.
And also the bottom part of the marina operation is the concession
Yeah.
agreement too, so.
Has anybody indicated an interest in doing that?
Yes, but I won't go into it.
Well, we shouldn't at this point, I just
No.
want to, that there
Yes.
is a real interest from a real person that apparently has the wherewithal.
We have had 2 contact us that said they would be.
Okay,
interested.
all right.
So that one, I'm okay
one-
with leaving at number 2.
All right.
I think that's significant.
One more thing about it, I think it's just important for us to point out as a group here, is we were told that, of the 50 some odd, on the waiting list for boat slips, that those were all folks who had, already had permits.
I believe that's what Dean said, yes.
Yeah, that is what Dean said. And I asked Dean to check on that and make sure, and it turns out that 15 of them are people who already have permits.
15.
According to Linda. Yeah, I asked Dean passed it to Linda, said, Linda, check on this, and that was the number I got, was 15, not 50, so.
Yeah, we often get things told to us with a lot of smoke around those words. I've noticed that a lot.
Yeah, well,
So-
at any rate, that was what, and anyway, that was what I got. So, we don't have, 50 people out there. And, another thing, and as part of that was whenever we discovered that if the waiting list, I asked about the waiting list, I said, is that, first come, first serve, or do the people of the town who live in the town get priority. And it's first comes, first served, and I know don't have it on the agenda to talk about it now, but we could maybe talk about it at our next, Marine Commission meeting, that, whether or not we wanna change that to where the citizens, taxpayers of the town get priority over somebody that
Yeah.
doesn't live
And
here.
that's next week, and I agree that should be on our agenda
Yeah.
for next week.
Yeah, that should be on there. Okay, so I guess maybe what's a little confusion here is as we look at this, and if this is town expenses, we're looking at, a total project cost of 3.7 million, first year cost of 300,000. And it doesn't show us here how much of that is actual cost to the citizens of the town and how much of it is money coming from somewhere else.
Very true, yeah.
So I think
On several projects.
until we get that identified, I don't think it needs to be, I think it's gonna create more confusion than, because somebody comes up and says, well, you got, y'all gonna looking at spending 300,000 and 3.7 million down there, and well, no, town's not paying for all that. Well, how much? Well, I don't know.
Yeah.
You know, that's not a good way to do business.
If they look in the sheet, they can tell that, the revenue sheets.
Yeah, this is
Summary.
just the
Yeah,
index.
This is just a summary of the project so that
Right,
somebody can look
right.
at it and say, all right, I roughly know what the top 10 projects of the board are.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that shouldn't be a project high on the list. I'm just saying that we need it broken out better than this, so we know what it is we're spending of our constituents' money.
And do
And
we
again,
have a,
it's all a guess because
Yeah.
it's an educated guess, but again, until we have that document signed
Right.
by a private person, we really don't know what that total would be.
and do we have a projected percentage that TDA was willing to spend on that marina building, since they were gonna be using it as the new TDA welcome center and the hub
Yeah.
for the gorge?
We have not talked about that. It's on our list to talk about, but you know, not in the room, so I'll say it. He believes that $80,000.
Yeah, I remember that figure from the first
Yeah.
briefing on that,
Right.
and,
I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I
No.
don't know how much more we'll get.
no, but he clearly said that they would help pay for the design and engineering and planning, and they would also help contribute to the actual construction. And that, but I remember the 80 being mentioned, but not necessarily all at once, but there's so much a year,
That's right.
and this is that project over years, there's so much a year that they can kick back towards that. So,
And I don't know if the TDA board would agree with it.
The other piece of this project is that if the project were to go through and the TDA were to move over there, then the space that they're currently in a building that we own becomes vacant. And I
Right,
think we should have a plan for trying to convert that space somehow into revenue generating, some form of revenue
I was
generation.
gonna say, Stephen Weber and I were standing, I think it was Stephen Weber, we were standing over there, somebody was standing there with me, and we said, you know, Parks and Rec would fit in real well right in there. So, I mean, there's some, of course, there's others that could move in there too, but, so they could free up some space.
yeah. And of course, the restroom construction drawings, we've got an email now, looking at and even talking future, expanding that. Of course, the basic concept is that building eventually become an interstate style restroom facility. And of course, provide information and so on. But that would be a wonderful spot for an office for a Parks and Recreation Director ultimately, to run that out of there. So,
All right, any other comments or discussion? It doesn't sound like we would take any action on this today.
yeah.
What do you think, Kevin? You want to leave them where they are, or move them down or off the list for now?
Well, now we had we were considering the motion of the action item to move the one project down to the bottom
Well,
before it goes out for
I
public.
withdrew that.
Did you? Okay.
Because we really don't need to make a decision now.
Okay.
On that prioritization. We do have the public hearing, next week. And then when do we have to finalize this, May? Now,
So we
last
could just
year.
leave this as just,
Yeah,
as the
it's-
town's,
This is-
manager's recommendation.
The implication,
Right now,
yeah,
yeah.
even if it goes out to the
Yeah.
public,
Okay,
we
what it
still.
is.
Last year, we had a couple of special meetings on it
Yeah.
before we ever actually
I'd wait
approved
till
it.
after
So-
public meeting, do
Yeah.
it.
So,
That's-
so
We
yeah.
probably need more information
Yeah.
than we have right now to make the right
Yeah.
decision.
All right,
And that's what I was gonna say, the next step for me would be to present this to the public, they would have a chance to comment, y'all would have a chance to comment. If you wanna set up special meetings where we have the department heads come in, get more information about their individual projects, because again, I can only give you sort of a high-level review of each of these projects as I've been going through them with department heads. They can give you specifics, so, we can
And
set
we did
up.
that last year.
We
Each
did that last
department
year.
briefed us on their CIP projects and so on. And that's what I was getting into a little bit out at the retreat, if you recall, and you said, oh, shut up, Weber. And so, you know,
I did.
That was me.
oh, that was you? Oh, all right.
We all want
All right.
At least it
oh,
was.
all right, so, is that it? I wrap that thing up? If so, then, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
That's my job. I'll make that motion.
Bob's job is
Let
that?
Bob do it.
Yeah, who seconds that then?
Everybody.
Everybody?
Everybody seconds
All
it,
right,
yeah.
okay, then
I got
all those in
bragging.
favor,
No,
aye,
I
and
don't
we're out of
second
here.
it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Accept it.
Thank you.
Very productive.
Just always look at me. That is my official.
Is that your job? All right, I'm getting to know these.
Yeah, Whitney
Very
stepped in there
productive.
one time.
Did he really?
I
Did you